The Gift of Silence. My name is Robert. Many years ago. I still remember that night very clearly. I was sitting on a bench near the river. The sky was full of gray clouds, and the moon was hiding behind them. The wind was soft, and the trees did not move much. Everything around me was quiet, no people, no cars, not even a dog barking. It was a deep and heavy silence. That silence felt louder than any noise I had heard before. I sat there for a long time, not thinking, not speaking. I looked at the dark water and watched the slow movement. My hands were cold, but I didn't feel it much. My heart was full, but I didn't cry. I listened to the silence, and it spoke to me. It told me things I didn't want to hear. It told me about the life I lost. It told me about the man I used to be. A few years ago, my life was very different. I had a good job in the city, and I had many friends. I laughed often, I traveled, and I stayed busy. People liked me. I liked myself. I used to wake up early and drink coffee near the window. I used to talk to my neighbors and smile at strangers. Life was fast, but it was full. But then, something changed inside me. It didn't happen in one day. It was slow and quiet, like falling leaves in autumn. One morning, I didn't want to get out of bed. I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want to hear voices. I didn't want to answer questions. I wanted to be alone, and I didn't know why. People noticed I was different. My friends called, but I didn't answer. My boss asked if I was okay, but I just nodded. My family came to visit, but I stayed in my room. I stopped going out. I stopped smiling. I stopped speaking. The world kept moving, but I stayed still. I was not sad. I was not angry. I was just quiet. One day, I packed a small bag and left. I didn't tell anyone. I took a bus to a small town I had never visited before. It was far from the city, and no one knew me there. I rented a small room near the river. It had one bed, one chair, and one window. I didn't need more. I just wanted peace. I just wanted silence. At first, the silence was strange. I could hear every sound, the clock ticking, the floor creaking, the wind blowing. But slowly, the silence became a friend. It was always there, but it did not ask anything from me. It did not want answers. It did not expect smiles. It just stayed. And in that stillness, I started to see myself again. I began to write in a notebook. I wrote about my days, my thoughts, and my memories. I wrote about people I missed and mistakes I made. I wrote about things I never told anyone. My pen moved slowly, but the words came out. They were simple, but they were true. I filled many pages. I never read them again, but I needed to write them. I walked by the river every morning. I listened to the birds, the water, the wind in the trees. I watched the sky change colors. I saw the sun rise and fall. I did not take pictures. I did not share anything. I just watched. And in watching, I learned. I learned to see small things. I learned to be still. I learned to listen. People think silence is empty, but silence is full. It holds feelings, memories, and truth. It shows you what noise hides. In silence, you hear your heart, you hear your pain, you hear your hopes, you hear everything you try to forget. And slowly, you start to understand, you start to heal. Many people are afraid of silence. They run from it. They fill their lives with sound, music, voices, phones, screens. They think silence is lonely, but silence is not the enemy. It is a mirror. It shows who you really are. It is hard to look, but it is also the first step to change. I did not understand this before. Now I do. That is why I still return to that bench by the river. I sit and listen. I do not bring music. I do not bring books. I bring only myself. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I smile. But I always leave feeling lighter. The silence takes my pain and gives me peace. Not forever, but enough for one more day. Sometimes I think about the people I left behind. I wonder if they still think of me. I wonder if they understand why I left. I did not hate them. I was not angry. I was just tired of pretending. Tired of smiling when I felt empty. Tired of talking when I had nothing to say. So I walked away, not to escape them, but to find myself in the quiet. In silence, I remembered things I had forgotten. I remembered my mother's voice when I was a child. I remembered my father's hands, strong and gentle. I remembered walking home from school, the sky orange with sunset. These memories came back slowly, like waves touching the shore. They were small, but they warmed my heart. In the noise, I had lost them. In silence, I found them again. I also remembered my mistakes. Times I spoke too quickly. Times I hurt people without meaning to. I remembered faces I never said sorry to. I remembered days I wasted chasing things that did not matter. These thoughts were not easy. They hurt, but they were honest, and I needed honesty more than comfort. Silence gave me that. One evening I sat by the river and watched the stars. The clouds were gone, and the sky was clear. I had not looked at the stars for a long time. They were so far away, but they made me feel close to something big. I felt small, but not alone. I felt quiet, but not empty. The stars did not speak, but they said so much. I listened, and they comforted me. After some time, I began to see other people in the town. An old man who fed birds every morning, a woman who walked her dog in the rain, a boy who sold flowers near the market. They did not know my name, and I did not know theirs, but we smiled at each other. A small smile, not loud, not fast, just quiet kindness, and that was enough. I did not need many words anymore. A look, a smile, a nod. These things spoke louder than long talks. I used to think silence was cold, but now I saw it could be warm. It could hold love without sound. It could show care without noise. I started to believe that real connection doesn't always need words. Sometimes silence says more than speech. I kept writing in my notebook. I wrote about these small moments. I wrote about the wind and the stars, the people and their silence. I didn't write for others. I didn't write to teach. I wrote to feel. My words were like steps on a quiet path. Each sentence helped me walk forward, even if the road was slow. Writing helped me stay alive. Some nights were harder than others. Some nights the silence felt heavy again. I thought about going back to my old life. I thought about calling someone, but I didn't. I sat through the pain. I let the silence hold me. I let it hurt. And then slowly, it passed. I learned that pain can live in silence, but so can peace. Both can be true at the same time. There was one night I will never forget. I heard a bird singing in the dark. Just one bird, one note, again and again. It was not loud, but it was clear. It made me cry, not because it was sad, but because it was brave. The bird was singing into the silence. No one told it to stop. No one needed to hear it, but it sang anyway. That night, I wanted to be like that bird, so I started to make small changes. I began talking again, just a little. I said hello to people. I asked simple questions. I still loved silence, but I didn't fear sound. I let both live in my day. I let myself speak when needed and be quiet when not. I stopped hiding. I stopped running. I just lived, one breath at a time. Now, when people ask about my time away, I don't say much. I tell them I needed quiet. I tell them I learned to listen, not to others, but to myself. Some understand, some don't, but that's okay. The silence taught me not to explain everything. It taught me to be okay with being unseen. It taught me that even without noise, I am still here. It took me many months to understand the true power of silence. At first, I thought silence was just the lack of sound. I thought it was something empty, something lonely. But the more I lived with it, the more I saw it was full of emotion, memory, truth, and healing. It was not the end of noise. It was the start of something deeper. Silence was not a wall. It was a door. There is a kind of silence that hurts, the kind that comes from being ignored, the kind that follows a fight, the kind that fills a room when love is lost. I knew that silence, too. I'd lived in it. I'd cried inside it. But the silence I found by the river was different. It did not punish. It did not judge. It just stayed with me. It stayed even when I had nothing to give. People often look for answers in voices. They turn to others, to books, to noise. But sometimes the answers are already inside us. We just need quiet to hear them. In silence, I asked myself questions I'd never dared to ask. Why was I unhappy? Why did I run? What did I really want? The answers were soft, but they were real, and real answers don't shout. One day, I walked into the forest near the town. I followed a small path between the trees. Birds flew above, and the sun came through the leaves. There were no signs, no people, no sound except nature. I walked for hours without talking. I let the silence guide me. I didn't know where I was going, but I felt safe. The forest was quiet, and so was I. I found a fallen tree and sat on it. I closed my eyes and took deep breaths. The air was cool, and the ground was still. In that moment, I felt something change in me. I was not thinking of the past. I was not afraid of the future. I was just there, present, alive. That kind of silence is rare, but when it comes, you feel whole again. After that day, I started to notice beauty in simple things. The way a leaf falls, the way water moves, the way light touches the wall in the afternoon. These things were always there, but I had never seen them. Noise had hidden them, but silence showed them to me. It taught me to slow down, to see, to feel, to be grateful. One evening, it started to rain while I was walking. I didn't run. I didn't look for a place to hide. I just stood there and let the rain fall on me. It was cold, but it felt like a gift. The drops touched my face like hands. They cleaned something inside me. I stood in the rain, silent and still, and I smiled. That moment said more than 1,000 words. I began to understand that silence is not the same as sadness. Silence can hold sadness, but it can also hold joy, peace, and truth. It is a space where emotions can breathe, a place where the heart can rest. I stopped fearing it. I welcomed it. I let it be part of my life, not just in quiet places, but also in loud ones. Silence was now inside me. I met a man in the town who also loved silence. He was a painter. He didn't speak much, but his eyes were kind. We sat together sometimes near the river. We didn't talk, but we shared something, a calm, a knowing. He painted, and I wrote. We didn't need words. Our silence was enough. That was friendship in its purest form. Sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if I had never stopped, if I had stayed in the city, if I had kept talking, working, moving. Maybe I would have more things, more people, more noise, but I would not have this peace. I would not know the strength of stillness. I would not know who I really am beneath the noise. I am not saying silence fixes everything. It does not erase pain or change the past, but it gives you space to feel, to think, to heal. It gives you time to listen to yourself. And in that listening, you find truth. That truth may hurt, but it is yours. And once you hold it, you can begin again, slowly, quietly, fully. I once saw a child sitting alone on the steps of a small shop. He had no toys, no phone, and no one around him. But he looked peaceful. He watched the sky, and his hands moved slowly over his knees. I stood far away, just watching. That boy reminded me of something I had lost, the ability to be still, to sit in silence without needing anything to fill it. When I was younger, I feared silence. It made me feel alone. I thought silence meant something was wrong. At school, I talked too much. At home, I played loud music. Even in bed, I needed noise, a fan, a voice, a song, anything to keep the silence away. I thought if things were quiet, then maybe I'd hear the pain inside, so I kept moving, kept talking. But that kind of noise only hides the truth. It doesn't heal. It just pushes the pain deeper. Over time, I became tired. My words lost meaning. My smile became fake. I felt empty in crowds, and even more empty alone. That was when I realized I needed a change. Not a big move or a new job, but something deeper. I needed to meet myself again. The silence was hard at first. It was like meeting a stranger. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know who I was without the noise. But little by little, I became more comfortable. I didn't rush to fill the space. I let it be. I listened to the wind, the birds, the sound of my own breath. It was strange, but it felt right. I was not afraid anymore. Some days, I walked without a plan. I let the road choose for me. I followed the sound of leaves, the shape of shadows, the feeling in my chest. I found old houses, quiet fields, and empty benches. I sat and let time pass. No phone, no camera, no words, just presence, just being there. These small moments became my medicine. I once sat under a tree for hours. I watched an ant carry food. I watched light move across the grass. Nothing big happened. No lesson, no message, but I felt full. I felt calm. The world kept going, but I was still. That stillness was my healing. I didn't need noise to feel alive. I needed attention, presence, and quiet wonder. One evening, I visited the cemetery near town. The wind was soft, and the trees moved gently. I walked between the stones, reading names and dates. Most of them were people I never knew, but each one had lived, laughed, cried, and loved. Their lives were now silent, but that silence was not empty. It was deep. It was full of memory. I thought about my own life. One day, my name would be on a stone, too. One day, my voice would also stop. That thought didn't make me sad. It made me grateful. Grateful for now. Grateful for breath, for time, for silence. I realized that every quiet moment was a gift, a chance to live more fully, a chance to notice what truly matters. After that day, I changed how I walked through life. I listened more and talked less. I watched more and judged less. I let others speak without jumping in. I gave space to people. I gave space to myself. I stopped trying to be loud in a loud world. I chose to be still. I chose to be present. That choice gave me peace. People started to ask what had changed in me. They said I looked calm, that my eyes were softer. I didn't explain much, I just smiled. The truth was simple. I had made friends with silence, and in that friendship, I had found myself again. Not the busy version, not the tired one, but the real one, the one who listens, feels, and lives. Now, silence is part of my everyday. I find it in walks, in tea, in light, in rain. I no longer chase loud joy. I welcome quiet joy. I don't fear being alone. I don't fear the pause between words, because in that pause, in that stillness, life speaks in a voice only the heart can hear. I remember a night when I sat outside looking at the moon. It was full and bright, and the sky was clear. No cars passed. No voices broke the air. Just the quiet hum of the earth. I stayed there for a long time, not thinking, not planning. I just looked. That silence felt like a soft blanket. It covered me with peace, not coldness. It reminded me that some beauty only lives in silence. In the past, I filled my time with plans. I had goals, lists, and busy days. I thought success meant movement. I thought happiness was loud. But the more I chased it, the more tired I became. One day I realized I had no energy left. I wasn't happy. I was just busy. And in all the noise, I had lost myself. I needed silence to remember what I truly wanted. The silence didn't bring quick answers. It brought slow truth, truth that came like waves, soft but strong. Each quiet moment gave me a piece of myself. I learned to wait. I learned to breathe. I learned that healing is slow and not always easy. But silence helped. It made space for me to feel. It gave my heart room to grow gently. There were times I cried in silence, not because I was weak, but because I was honest. In the quiet, I let myself feel old pain. Pain I had pushed away. I cried for lost friends, for missed chances, for words I never said. But after each tear I felt lighter. Silence did not judge me. It held me. It let my sadness speak and then rest. I met an old woman on one of my walks. She was sitting by a small lake feeding the birds. She looked peaceful. I sat nearby and we stayed silent for a while. Then she turned to me and smiled. She said, "Some things grow better in quiet." Then she went back to feeding the birds. I never forgot her words. They stayed with me like a soft echo. Silence is a teacher that asks no questions, but gives many answers. It doesn't push. It waits. It lets you come to it. And when you do, it shows you things words cannot. It shows you who you are when no one is watching. It shows you how strong you are, even when you feel weak. It teaches you to trust stillness, not fear it. I began to write more during this time. I didn't write to be read. I wrote to understand. In silence, my words became clearer. I wrote about pain, but also about hope. I wrote about silence itself. The page didn't judge me. It was like the river, still and open. I found peace in writing, and I found silence inside every line I wrote. There were also days I didn't write or walk or sit. I just rested. I let my mind float. I let my body be still. I watched the clouds. I listened to the wind, and that was enough. I didn't need to do more. That kind of rest is rare in today's world, but it is powerful. In stillness, the body heals, the mind clears, the soul breathes again. One night I watched a candle burn. I saw the flame dance and move without noise. It was small, but strong. That flame reminded me of silence. It doesn't shout, but it shines. It stays even in darkness. It gives warmth without words. That night, I thanked the silence. I thanked it for being my guide, my friend, and my light. Some people think silence is empty, but silence is full of life. It holds the sound of your heart, the rhythm of your breath, the weight of your thoughts. It holds space for dreams and pain and beauty. It is not nothing. It is everything that matters. It is where you meet yourself without masks or noise. Now, every time I feel lost, I return to silence. I don't run from it. I sit with it. I listen. And every time, it welcomes me back. Not with answers, but with peace. Not with noise, but with truth. I no longer fear silence, I honor it. I carry it with me, like a quiet flame, wherever I go. I visited the sea one last time before winter. The beach was empty and the sky was gray. The waves moved in and out with a slow rhythm. I walked along the shore, feeling the cold wind on my face. I thought about everything that had changed in me. I was not the same man who once feared silence. I had walked through the noise and come out with a quiet heart. There was a bench near the rocks. I sat there, watching the waves crash. In the past, I might have taken a photo or sent a message. But now, I just sat. No camera, no phone, just me and the sea. I listened to the sound of water, wind, and my own breath, and I felt something deep, something soft and powerful. It was peace. It was silence. It was home. I remembered the faces of people I loved. Some were still here. Some were gone. I whispered their names into the wind. I didn't speak loudly. I didn't cry. But my heart was full. In silence, I could feel them near. I could hear their laughter in the waves. I could see their smiles in the sky. Silence helped me carry them with me always. That day, I wrote one last note in my old notebook. I wrote, "Silence saved me." I looked at the words for a long time. They were simple, but they were true. Silence gave me space to grow. It gave me time to heal. It gave me a way to understand life without rushing through it. It gave me myself, and that is the greatest gift. I knew not everyone would understand my love for silence. Some would think it was strange or sad, but I didn't mind. We all walk different roads. We all carry different pain. Some heal with words, some with music. I healed with silence. I didn't need to explain it. I just needed to live it, and I was okay with that. As I left the beach, I looked back one more time. The sea kept moving. The wind kept blowing. The sky stayed gray. But inside me, everything was quiet and bright. I didn't know what the future would bring, but I was ready for it. Not with noise, but with stillness. Not with fear, but with trust. That was enough. Many people chase big dreams, loud success, shining lights. I did that too. But now I find value in small things. A walk, a cup of tea, a soft light at the end of day. I don't need more. I don't need to be loud. I only need to be real. And real things grow best in silence. That is the lesson I want to leave behind. If someone asked me what silence taught me, I would say this. It taught me how to listen. To others, to life, to my soul. It taught me how to wait without fear. It taught me how to feel without running. It taught me how to be kind without words. Silence is not empty. It is full of meaning if we are willing to hear it. I hope one day someone finds this story. I hope they read it in a quiet room, maybe beside a window. I hope they feel calm. I hope they understand they are not alone. If they are sad, I hope they know peace will come. If they are lost, I hope they know silence can guide them back. That is why I wrote this. That is why I remember. This is the end of my story, but not the end of silence. It stays with me like a shadow in light. It walks beside me even when no one else does. I am not afraid. I have made peace with my past. I have made peace with my pain. And now, I walk forward with silence in my heart and light in my steps. So if you ever feel heavy, if the world becomes too loud, stop for a moment. Find a quiet place. Sit. Breathe. Listen. Let the silence speak. It has things to tell you. It has things to heal in you. Don't run from it. Run to it. That silence might be the softest, strongest thing you ever find. I hope this session was helpful. Please like and subscribe to our channel for more such interesting stories. Take care, everyone.